Today we are in the historic village of Peninsula, Ohio, deep in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Peninsula is a charming little canal town that's become quite trendy, but the scenery and shopping isn't the only thing that brings visitors to this area. Legend has it that there is a grave here of a witch who was captured and drowned in the Cuyahoga River. Before she died, she vowed revenge, saying that lightning would strike her grave and set her free. Today we visit the legend of the Witch of Helltown, a legend that's steeped in history more than you would think. So if you're curious, let's take a walk through history. Legend has it that an old woman lived near this lock in the village of Peninsula. She spent most of her days walking through the forest, collecting wild mushrooms and herbs, and she was rarely seen in the daytime. But when she was seen, she was mostly wearing all black and a large, floppy straw hat. The townspeople would often visit the old woman, seeking their fortunes, or for potions to cure the sick, or for love spells. One of those townspeople was a large man named Big Sam. Big Sam was a farmer, and he was a greedy man. He was a man who had land, but he wanted more land. He wanted all of the land. And so, in order to get more land, he came up with a plan. He decided that he was going to befriend the old woman because the old woman was meeting with the townspeople and getting the scoop on everybody just because of her friendships. He decided if he could befriend her and start getting information on the townspeople, then he could blackmail the townspeople out of their riches and their property. Well, it worked for a while, and then the old woman got wise to what was happening. So in order to keep his status in the community, Big Sam decided to tell the old woman that she had to keep doing what she was doing, or he would take her home and her land. It came to a point where the old woman had had enough. She went to Big Sam and she said, "Listen, I'm not going to be part of you stealing from these kind townspeople anymore. I won't help you any longer." Well, that didn't set well with Big Sam. So Big Sam told her that she would regret this decision, and he went home. The next day, Big Sam showed up at her house, dragged her to the center of town, stripped her of her clothes and her hat, and saw that she bore scars all over her body. The townspeople stood in awe. They were too afraid to help for fear of what Big Sam might do. Sam turned to the townspeople and said, "She bears the marks of a witch who was burned." Clearly, burning did not take her life, but maybe water could do what fire could not. Big Sam tied the old woman to the back of his buggy and forced her to walk barefoot down to the lock. Every so often he would look behind to see her walking pridefully, just staring at the back of his head with an evil grin. When they finally reached the river, Big Sam tied rocks to her feet and was preparing to lower her into the water when he asked her if she had any final words. She looked at him and her eyes were glazed over, almost milky, like silver spoons. She said that she regretted nothing and that he had better bury her quickly and bury her hard, because only a lightning strike would free her from her grave. Big Sam, full of anger, kicked her into the water with his big black boot and watched her drown. When she was pronounced dead, she was placed here in the local cemetery under this headstone, which was the tallest in the cemetery at the time. Big Sam had her placed here as a constant reminder that he was the man in charge, and if you cross him, you'll dig your own grave. One night there was a nasty storm, and the caretaker saw a lightning bolt strike this headstone and put a crack in it all the way down to the earth. That same night, Big Sam awoke from a terrifying nightmare in which the witch had come back and dragged him down to the loch. Restless, Big Sam put on his robe and his boots, headed out to the barn where he kept his prize goat, and sat down and lit his pipe. Sam began to tell the goat about his lousy dream, and as he did so, the goat stopped eating and turned his head and gazed up at Big Sam. And when their eyes met, Big Sam saw the milky eyes of the witch staring back at him. Big Sam clutched his chest and fell to the ground, dead. It is said that the witch's spirit still haunts the cemetery, but that when her apparition appears, it is that of a white goat. So why do we call the old woman the Witch of Helltown? Helltown is a nickname for Boston Township. Boston Township is made up of several villages in Ohio, one of which is Peninsula. And it's here, back in 1974, that several homeowners and landowners had eminent domain filed against their property by the United States government. See, back in the late 60s and early 70s, there was fear that the country was expanding too quickly and we were losing our national parks and the nature of our country. So President Ford signed an act that gave rights to the government to claim eminent domain and to build a national park system that would preserve that nature. Just so happens that this beautiful area in the Cuyahoga Valley was targeted for one of those national recreation areas. President Ford decided that William Birdsall should become the first superintendent of the Cuyahoga Valley National Recreation Area, later to become known as Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And he should spearhead the movement to determine where the National Recreation Area should lie and what parts of Boston Township should be claimed under eminent domain. You got to figure that there are a lot of people who are not happy with this decision. When the government claimed eminent domain, many of the people took the modest price that they were offered for their house or for their property and left. But there were several who didn't. They decided that they weren't going to be displaced from their own homes, and soon the government had to send in the military to forcefully remove these people. Once they were removed from their homes were set on fire and bulldozed to the ground. But production on the National Recreation Area stalled. The Kretschke dump, which is located on the outskirts of the recreation area, was found to be contaminated by improperly disposed toxic waste. The park rangers who went to the dump to survey the area fell ill and had rashes come over their entire bodies. Then it was determined the way that the government purchased the homes and the land was illegal. So the government was forced to sell the land back to the previous homeowners. The problem is, their houses, for the most part, had been destroyed. There was nothing left to go back to. And so many didn't come back. President Ford reassigned Birdsell to a new location, but he never left the valley. Birdsell died of a heart attack while cleaning out his office. The devastation laid upon the area gave rise to the nickname Helltown, a location filled with urban legends. The list of urban legends rising from Helltown is long indeed. The Satanic Church with upside-down crosses, the Peninsula Python, the haunted abandoned bus, the Crybaby Bridge, all of these are part of the legend of Helltown. It could be that the Witch of Helltown is a story that was passed down through generations as a reminder of when the government came in and forcefully removed people from the area. Big Sam, in a large sense, represents the federal government, Uncle Sam, if you will, hungry for all of the land and powerful enough to take it, no matter the cost. Big Sam also represents William Birdsell, the government official who headed the project. Both of them died of a heart attack. The witch represents those who stood up to the government, and though eventually lost everything, their lives, ended up putting a stop to the land grab. Those who don't believe the legend think that this monument marks the final resting place of Robert McGovern, who was a solitary man who worked in a local quarry, who died in a mental institution, and carved this monument himself. They believe that vandals chipped away at this monument, stealing the cross that stood on top of this once 8-foot tall marker, and that witches and lightning strikes play no part in this sacred site. That may be true, but the occurrences that happened in this area in the 1970s, for those who lived through it, were a nightmare, far more unbelievable than any witch's tale, until lightning struck them and turned their quiet village into a hell town. Thanks for watching, folks. If you would, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I love hearing from you. And I'll see you next time as we explore more curious history. Take care.